Hi, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. The topic for today's webinar is automation in IT operations. I hope everyone is safe and everyone is working from home, or there are limited staff in the office. During these testing times, as a show of strength, we have introduced work from home solutions from ManageEngine. Please visit our website to learn more about these work from home solutions. And before we get into today's webinar, the actual topic on automation, the next couple of slides is going to be a recap of what you guys already know if you have familiar with OpManager. For those who are unfamiliar, it's going to be an eye-opener. It's going to give you a quick insight into what OpManager can do for you. So OpManager is an integrated IT network and server monitoring solution, which can help you monitor the performance of routers, switches, firewalls, servers, physical servers, and virtual infrastructure, applications like Tomcat, WebLogic, WebSphere, databases like MySQL, MS SQL, Oracle. You'll be able to find out the top talker in the network. You'll be able to find out the top talker in the network using traffic analysis, the source, the destination from which the maximum traffic was generated. And in order to find out the differences between the startup config and running config, or if you have to take a backup, or if you have to do a firmware upgrade, the network configuration management module is going to be helpful. You will also be able to manage the used and unused IP addresses and used and unused switch ports using the IPAM and SPM module. You will be able to monitor your storage devices like the RAID, Fabric switches, and much more. And finally, in order to know more about how your internet is being used up, and if you have to know the VPN usage and much more, the firewall log analysis is going to be helpful. So all these is contained into one solution, which is called OpManager Plus. And here are three different editions: the standard, professional, and the enterprise. The enterprise is more for high availability and scalability. The standard and professional editions are cut-down versions of the enterprise. So in case if you have any lower version of the software, it is easy to move to the higher version using just a license key. So you don't have to reinstall the product again to get into the highest version of the software. So having given you this quick introduction on OpManager, let me deep dive into today's topic, automation in IT operations. So as you all know, automation is key to software-defined networks, and it is imperative in this digital transformation world. So everything and anything and everything has to be automated, and your processes, business processes, your IT processes, your day-to-day activities, everything is being looked at as an automated concept. So what are the tasks that you can automate using OpManager? So the first few slides that I'm going to talk about is all about the day-to-day IT operations which administrators can automate using OpManager. So we are going to talk about backup bottlenecks, configuration rollback, zombie processes, data storage full. What happens when data storage is full? How do you address it? And frequent problem that any administrator would face is a service down. So instead of manually going and starting the service, allow OpManager to restart the service. How can you automate and monitor the file and folders within your file servers? And you will also be able to monitor the event logs and how can this task be automated using OpManager. And finally, how can you free up some disk space on the server so that you are left with much more space for other operations to be carried out on the server. So let's first talk about backup bottleneck. Usually, when a backup software runs and it is not able to take up a backup, there could be three major reasons. One is the agent is actually out of network. Second could be the backup service itself is down. Third could be the free disk space on the agent or on the client on which you are taking up the backup is low. So it should be above a cutoff value. Say, for example, the free disk space should be greater than 5 GB so as to run the backup successfully. So how can administrators or backup administrators or system administrators address these bottlenecks using ManageEngine OpManager's workflow automation? So if the agent is out of network, the first thing that you do is to ping the device. And if the device is actually out of network, you have to manually address it. So there is no way that you can think of doing this automatically. But when it comes to a case where the service is down or the agent is low, that's when you can think of automating it. So when you ping the device and it is successful and you test the service, the backup agent service, and the backup agent service is down, instead of going to the server, taking a remote desktop connection and starting the service, you can allow OpManager's workflow automation to start the service. And once the service is started, it's going to check for free disk space. If the free disk space is less than 5 GB, you will actually move some files and folders from one drive to the other, which can be done automatically using the component which says check drive free space. And you can delete a folder or move certain files and folders from one drive to the other. And finally, you can execute the backup script. So all these backup agents will be executed only if all the three conditions are met. The device should be up in the network, the service should be up, and the free disk space is greater than 5 GB. So if this has to be done successfully on all the backup agents that you have, then you have to think of workflow automation. Now let's take the next case where you have to roll back the configuration because of some unauthorized changes on a router, switch, or a firewall. So as you all know, routers, switches, and firewalls have two configuration files. One is a startup config and running config. Quite often, technicians, with all the multitasking they do, they forget to copy the running configuration to the startup configuration. The next time when this router or switch is rebooted, all the configurations that you have done earlier will be completely lost because it actually uses only the startup configuration to initialize the router, switch, or the firewall. Or let's take a case where some unauthorized changes have been done and you want to roll back the configuration to a previous version or the version which has been labeled as baseline. So you can see the differences between the existing configuration and the one which has been backed up earlier, or the baseline version. You can identify the lines which have been added, modified, or removed. You'll be able to roll back it depending on the change type, whether even if it is authorized or unauthorized change, you will be able to roll back the configurations. So the idea here is any action which has been taken on any configuration changes which has been done on router, switch, and a firewall has to be approved. Upon approval, if the configuration is done, it's absolutely fine and you'll be able to take a backup and things like that. But if there is an unauthorized change, or if someone tries to intrude, or if someone unknowingly has restarted the router, switch, or a firewall without copying the running configuration to the startup configuration, that's when you will actually need a rollback of the configuration changes. Now let's talk about zombie process. Everybody knows what a zombie process is. How can you identify a zombie process? The resource utilization, that is the CPU memory utilization on your device, on your server, is going to be on the maximum. So that is how you will be able to identify a zombie or a defunct process. And in fact, people who have experience working with Linux machines, They know what a zombie process is, and they will be easily able to kill that process using a command called kill that process ID or whatever it is. So OpManager allows you to monitor the processes running on a device, on a server. And if the process CPU utilization or memory utilization is greater than a threshold for n number of times, for n consecutive times. Say, for example, you are monitoring the server at 5-minute interval, and you have configured 3 consecutive times. So consecutively for 15 minutes, if the CPU utilization is greater than 99, that's when you can assume that there is going to be a defunct or a zombie process, and you can either terminate the process or you can restart the service associated with this process, or you can restart the server itself. So all these 3 actions are possible using workflow automation. And quite often when administrators work with virtual machines, this is a standard problem they may come across, that the data storage is full. So when the data storage is full, you will not have resources to be allocated to the new VMs, or existing VMs would have been running on the fullest capacity with the highest load, and therefore you will not be able to provide an 100% availability on the business services that is offered from these VMs. So in such cases, quite often administrators, the first step they do is to move certain VMs from one data store to the other, or move some files and folders. So these are standard troubleshooting steps which administrators will take over when they encounter this data storage is full. So in such cases, you can allow OpManager's workflow automation to check for free disk space and move the files and folders. Even after this, if the data storage is full, it may happen that the data store has not been refreshed. So if this is something which you have to manually do it, think about it once again, because OpManager has this option to refresh the data store or to reboot the guest operating system or reboot the system. So all these actions can be performed in succession and on all the VMs that you may have, or on all the data stores that you may have. So it's more important that you identify your day-to-day activities like data store full. And if you are encountering this kind of a problem once in a week or once in a month and or once in a day, and you don't want to do this activity of refreshing the data store or rebooting the guest system, allow OpManager to do it. And service restart. So quite often MS SQL service is down, or Exchange service is down, or any other business service is down, and the only option left with the administrator is to restart the service. In such cases, OpManager allows technicians to automatically restart those services. It's just a quick check, test the availability of the service, and if the service is down, it's going to restart the service, and it is going to send out an email. So everything is going to be documented here. So in each and every step that you're going to automate it, you can have it documented as a ticket into ServiceDesk. So you can run the checks for testing a service on all the critical business services that you may have, daily or weekly or monthly or once in a while. So depending on your schedule, or depending on the criticality of that particular service, you can check the availability of the services. When it comes to folder monitoring, you can check for the existence of a folder. If the folder does not exist, in most cases, you want the log folder to be existing, but for some reason, if the log folder has been removed, you want to send out a notification. So you can check for the folder existence. You can check the protocol with which you will have to monitor the files and folders. It could be either through WMI or through Telnet or through SSH, or if you want, you also use an agent to monitor the folders and files. You can check for folder existence. You can check for the size of the folder. What should be the maximum size of the folder? In most cases, if you have a file server, the folder size should not be greater than 10 GB because it's going to be difficult for you to back it up, and you want to split it into multiple folders or subfolders. So you can check the folder size, and if the folder size goes beyond a threshold value, you can get an alarm from the OpManager. You can also check for folder modification. If someone is trying to modify the folders or the files or the subfolders within it, alerts can be sent to the administrators, or a ticket can be logged into ServiceDesk. Same case goes with file monitoring as well. You can check for the file content, or you may want to check the file size or the file age, or you may want to check the file count within a folder. So you can try to monitor all aspects related to file monitoring, like file content, file size, and file age, and the file count within a folder, and get notified when something goes wrong or if the threshold value has been violated. Event log monitoring. You can check for critical events on servers, or you want to check for critical events on routers, switches, and firewalls. You can have the syslog collected, and OpManager is going to report to you when a critical event has occurred. You'll be able to monitor the events based on source or event ID. Quite often you may encounter informational events. You can also choose to ignore those informational events, and you can also receive real-time notifications. So here, OpManager is going to send you a real-time notification when an event has occurred. In case if you guys are looking to monitor these event logs over a period of time, say for example, you want to archive them for 6 months or 1 year, or you want to do an event correlation and generate compliance reports like PCI DSS or GLB or GDPR or HIPAA or SOX, that's when you will have to look into our another software, which is called the Event Log Analyzer. So let me repeat this. If you want to do a real-time check on any event log, OpManager is going to be sufficient for you. But if you have to archive those events and generate reports over a period of time, generate compliance reports, or you want to look back into these archives, that's when you will have to look into the Event Log Analyzer or Log360 from ManageEngine. And finally, let's see how you can free up the disk space on a server using OpManager workflow. So you can check for free disk space. If the free disk space is greater than a threshold value, you can just ignore it. If it is less than the threshold value, you are going to delete some folders, or you can move some folders from one drive to the other. So these are the various activities that you can automate using workflow automation engine in OpManager. So what are the benefits of these automation? So the first and foremost thing is you spend less time on those activities which actually consume a lot of time for you. So if assuming that you have been doing this event log monitoring manually, or let's say you have been doing a file check manually, or you have been using scripts, how long do you think can you actually do it manually? Or there could be another case where you want to roll back the configuration. Rolling back the configuration, you have to manually sit and type some commands on the routers and switches and firewalls. So that's when your time is getting consumed. So with less time and less cost of the software, you will be able to do more activities and you'll be able to automate more activities. And with all tasks, all mundane tasks or daily tasks being automated, you can make the most out of your task force. You can make the most out of your technicians. You can use your technician time to look into different kind of security concepts or security aspects, or how to enhance the security of your organization. All these is what you can put your technicians to use for. You can minimize the errors that occur due to manual intervention. So if you are able to automate few things, it is actually going to minimize errors, and thereby it is going to increase the efficiency of your services. With all being done, you end up having higher satisfaction level of your users as well. So you will know how your quality of service has improved by automating few things in your IT operations. So having said that, having talked about all the tasks that can be automated using OpManager, the next couple of slides, I'm going to talk about how OpManager is going to help you automate certain things so that you don't have to manually sit and keep looking at the OpManager console. So first and foremost, how are you going to automate discovery? There's a discovery rule engine, so you can schedule the discovery daily, weekly, monthly, and you know how frequently your devices are getting added, how frequently routers, switches, firewalls, or servers, or VMs are getting added to your network. So based on that interval, you can configure a discovery schedule based on these timelines, daily, weekly, monthly. And once you know a server which contains MS SQL service has to be added to the specific business view. Say you have created business views for based on functions, based on location, based on geographical location, or based on any business service. So in such cases, you don't want to manually go and sit and add those devices again to the business view. So you want the application to take care of itself. Say, for example, if the server contains MS SQL service, you want to add it to the database cluster. Or if the category is router or switch, you want to add it to your data center view. So such things can be automatically done using the discovery rule engine in OpManager. Similarly, you'll also be able to associate a notification profile. Quite often, people, customers who have been using OpManager, they come back to the support saying that I did not receive a notification when the server went down. While we troubleshoot these kind of issues, we ended up finding out that the notification profile was not associated because the server was recently added to the application. So in such cases, allow this discovery rule engine to also associate the notification profile. It could be email notification profile or text notification, or it could be a push notification on your mobile app as well. So OpManager has got an Android and an iPhone mobile app, so you can push notifications to these mobile apps. You can also log a ticket into ServiceDesk Plus. The next slide, I'm going to talk about it. And you can also initiate a workflow item. So all the activities that we saw, all the tasks that you saw as automation using workflow automation, you can initiate them whenever a service goes down or when a new device is getting added. So you can actually associate all these as a default criteria to the devices which are getting added new to the network. Now, when it comes to ServiceDesk Plus integration, you will be able to log trouble tickets into help desk. So the advantage here is you don't have to manually sit and assign tickets to technicians. So ServiceDesk Plus and OpManager go hand in hand. So OpManager is going to monitor all your network and server infrastructure, and ServiceDesk is going to receive all the alarms from OpManager as tickets. So the advantage here is when the device goes down, a ticket is generated here, but the technician has worked on that particular device and he has brought the system up, he has brought the network device up, and he forgets to close the ticket in ServiceDesk. He doesn't have to actually. The reason is once the device is up in the network, OpManager identifies it and it knows that a ticket was generated, and the ticket associated with that alarm will automatically be closed. Or let's take another example where the CPU utilization on a server has reached its threshold. So the CPU utilization is at 99%, and the threshold has been violated. Threshold was 95, and it has been violated. An alarm has been generated in OpManager. A ticket has been associated with the technician using ServiceDesk Plus. Now, if the CPU utilization during the next monitoring interval is automatically gone below the threshold value. Say, for example, it's gone to 52. So the alarm will be automatically cleared in OpManager. Once the alarm is cleared, the ticket that was raised against it in ServiceDesk Plus will also be cleared, will be closed. So your technicians need not go and manually close tickets, and whatever actions that have been done will be captured in the history, whether it's been an automated close or it's a manual close. Everything is going to be documented using from the history tab. So, having talked about all the integrations, having talked about all the automations that can be done, I may want to also shed light on the technological changes that drive automation in IT operations. And most organizations here have hybrid infrastructure. They are into cloud computing. Everything is gone on mobile. Everybody has got virtual servers. And organizations are moving towards software-defined infrastructure. And finally, they would also want to look into some business intelligence reports and dashboards. So let's take a look into these. So cloud computing. OpManager has got options to monitor all your cloud infrastructure as well. It could be Azure SQL databases or Exchange Online, Microsoft Azure, Office 365, Oracle Cloud, SharePoint Online, Skype for Business Online. So Amazon AWS instances or EC2 instances. So you can completely monitor all your cloud infrastructure from on-premise software. In case if you are willing to go on the cloud itself, you are running low on infrastructure costs and you want ManageEngine to monitor your complete cloud and network and data center infrastructure, we have Site 24/7, which will be the website, network, server, application monitoring console on the cloud. So as I already told you, OpManager has got Android and iPhone apps. So technicians can receive notification from the app on their mobile. They can check the status of the device. They can add notes. They can clear the alarms. They can have a quick reference at the dashboard of the server or the entire history of the alarms that were generated against the device. And they will also be able to look into certain reports like the inventory dashboard or the interface dashboard or the number of devices which are up and down. So all these reports are available on the mobile interface as well. OpManager has got interface for monitoring all your virtual infrastructures. It could be VMware, vSphere, Hyper-V, and Citrix Xen servers. So you can check the status of the host, the guest operating systems, the VMs. You can check the data stores. You can identify the connection between the host to the data store, the host to the VM network, the VMs to the data store, and the VM to the network. So all these virtual maps will also be available for you to have a quick reference as to how your virtual infrastructure is being spread out. SDI, software-defined infrastructure. OpManager has got out-of-the-box monitoring for Nutanix, where you will be able to monitor your virtual infrastructure, servers, networks, and storage, all put together in the same console. Nutanix is the hyper-converged infrastructure, which actually eases out most of the administrative jobs in IT operations. When we have to talk about business intelligence, the first and foremost thing that comes to our mind is, how am I going to get the reports out of it? So we have data all over the table. We have data from the availability of the devices, the performance of the devices, we have configuration changes, we have traffic data, we have firewall log data, we have event log data as well, and we also have to know how many activities have been automated and what is the status of those automated jobs. So with all the data that has been on the table, you would want to have a quick report to check how these are performing, how these are being executed daily. So that's when you will need the Analytics Plus software, which helps you to transform data to information to knowledge to wisdom. Analytics Plus has a tighter integration with OpManager and gives you these reporting dashboards. So here is one dashboard, which is the alarms trend. You can check how the alarms have, how many alarms have been generated and how does it compare with what was available last week or last month or last quarter. So assuming that the number of alarms that were generated this month, that is in April 2020, is 25, whereas in March 2020 it was 125. So the number of alarms have actually gone down. So it actually indicates that your quality of service has improved. So such wise information, wise decision is what you can infer from these reports. You can see if there was an upward or a downward trend against any parameter that you're monitoring. And all these dashboards are interactive dashboards. You will be able to drag and drop widgets into the dashboards. And there's no other additional coding language or SQL knowledge to generate these reports. So once you install Analytics Plus, the integration is done. You'll have to give it a 15-minute lead time for the data to be synchronized. And after 15 minutes, you will have all the dashboards and the KPIs from OpManager. So you will actually have around 75 to 80 dashboards and close to around 250 reports out of the box, over and above what OpManager can offer. So OpManager also has its own reporting module, but in case if you have to replicate them to a dashboard, or you want to get some interaction with those reports, that's not possible in OpManager, but Analytics Plus allows you to do it. And here is another report which helps you to compare the performance trend on on servers. It could be memory utilization, CPU utilization, disk utilization, and you want to compare these three attributes across all the servers in your network. That's when you will be using these reports. And here is another one report which talks about the virtualization trends. It gives you a report on frequently used VMs, high resource consumed VMs, power hungry VMs, resource hungry VMs, and Hyper-V CPU performance, memory utilization. All these reports are available out of the box here. Finally, I'm towards the end of this webinar. You can email me at ekarthik@zohocorp.com if you have any questions, or if you have any thoughts on these webinars, do share it with us. For any support inquiries, you can email support@opmanager.com. They will be able to answer your questions quickly, and we have a 24/7 support for OpManager. And it's time for us to look into the questions. How can we locate this PPT? Our marketing team is going to share this presentation to everyone after this meeting, after this webinar. They're going to share it with you all. They're going to share the recording as well as the presentation with you all. How long the data would be kept for analysis, as native tools has limitations, and those data will be in our premises, or how it works in terms of compliance? Very good. Thank you for asking me this question, Samuel. I am assuming you're talking about event log analyzer here. How long the data would be kept for analysis, it depends on how long you want to keep it. So by default, we keep it for like 30 days, 30 days, 60 days, depending on the criticality of a particular event. We actually have identified those standards. But if you want to keep it more than whatever we have specified, yes, you can do it. And those data will be in your premise. Yes, event log analyzer is more of event log analyzer, and log 360 is more of an is actually on-premise solution, so there is no cloud solution for it. And in terms of compliance, we have a set of reports generated against these compliance standards, and by just a click, you will be able to get those reports. I joined a bit late. I'm new to the solution. Any referral site I can get more info? Yes, Wilfried, you will be able to get more information about this solution from this website. I'm broadcasting the website here. It is OpManager.com. Is Application Manager bundled with OpManager? It is not bundled. It is a kind of an add-on. You may have to install it separately. But when you use OpManager Plus and Applications Manager together, you will get 5 monitors for free. So 5 application monitors for free is available when you put the plugin and integrate it with OpManager. Can we save query report template from SQL on OpManager or Analytics Plus? Unfortunately, you will not be able to do it in any of these software. OpManager does not allow you to do any query report. Analytics Plus, absolutely not. So there is no way that you can save a query report template. But the straightforward answer here is, why would you have to save a SQL query when Analytics Plus gives you a drag and drop functionality to generate reports? So having said that, do take a look at Analytics Plus and see how the integration works. And I'm going to share another website here. I'm going to mention the name of the product, which is called Analytics Plus. You can take a look at analyticsplusdemo.manageengine.com to see how this integration works. Any other question? Yes, we do have. Thank you, Peter. Thank you so much for your comments. Well, if there are no more, I look forward to see you all in another webinar, probably sometime next month. Do watch our website for more solutions. As I told you in the beginning of the session, we have quite a number of work from home solutions for administrators. Do take a look at them. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to contact the sales. There are some special pricing for certain softwares for the COVID-19 pandemic. So take a look at them and be benefited with during these testing times. Thank you so much, guys. It was excellent meeting you all over this webinar.